Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in Australia. I'm Dante. I'll be taking you through the process of writing a great business plan today. This is a live session, so please do make your comments over in the Q&A if you've got a specific question you want to write, or maybe a chat. We can open that up as well. And if you've got any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to put them down. If you're watching this on YouTube after this has been recorded, you can just whack some comments below and subscribe to this channel, the Business Station YouTube channel, or my own one, the Dante St. James Business Station YouTube channel as well. Let's get that screen shared and we'll get underway. Look at my pretty presentation. Hopefully it's coming up on screen for you. It's all about writing a great business plan. This is for the Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program, delivered by Business Station in WA, delivered by Regional Development Australia in, if I can get this actually working, it seems to have actually, wait a minute, I can unshare. It's had a slight mistake here. I've shared the wrong article. I've shared a front page and that was all I shared. We just quickly get that fixed up for you. Got so many of these that I forget sometimes which one is which. Let's look for my presentations. Thankfully, I store it all nicely away in Canvas, so it's hard for me to actually lose them. Okay, I've found the right one now. Let's get that one underway. And I'll share. This looks more like it. Yes, that's the one we're after. And this is brought to you by, as I said, Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program in WA. And it's brought to you by Regional Development Australia, Brisbane in Queensland, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory, where I happen to be at the moment. Got a nice little quote here from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. If I said that right, if you speak French better than I do, please correct me. But a goal without a plan is just a wish. And we've got lots of goals, we've got lots of wishes. But if we don't have a plan, we don't really have a really solid way forward for our businesses. Here's who it's brought to you by. This will be available to view again on Business Station's YouTube channel or my own one under Dante St. James. Just search for us on YouTube and you'll see those channels there. Who it's for though is for brand new businesses who want to get a solid direction for where they're going to go and move forward to. Or you might be an existing business who realize you don't have a real plan, you're just kind of been fumbling along and hoping for the best. I'm going to put my hand up here and say that has been me in 3 previous businesses prior to this, until the most current one, which funnily enough has been the most successful one, is the one where I actually put down and defined my business plan moving forward. I originally did this for myself to enable me to get things like loans and business loans and all that for the business. I didn't end up actually going and getting business loans, but what I do is refer back to this document all the time because it gives me that sort of all overview to say, am I heading the right way that I said I was going to head? Or am I being sort of pulled in every other direction and losing focus on what's really important and what it is that I've really wanted to try and set out to achieve? Sometimes that's a good thing that you're being pulled to another direction because it means the money has moved. Anyone who's read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, would understand the importance of being able to follow where the money is flowing to. But sometimes when you've got a very solid purpose and a very solid idea where you want to go, this is a great way to sort of give yourself a kick in the butt to say, hey mate, you might have gone a little bit off track here. So let's see what we can do with this. We're going to learn today a bit of information that you need to include in a business plan. We're going to look section by section guide to what making good business plans looks like. We're going to look at formatting your business plan to be very readable and very compelling because there's going to be lots of different audiences for things like a business plan. And we're going to have some examples of some great business plans from other people that they've made that really stood out and made us think, wow, that actually looks really, really good. A bit about me, I'm a digital business advisor with Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory, but also across most of Northern Australia these days. I've been doing a lot of work in Broome and Cairns and Townsville of late. I'm a digital marketing associate, media planner and trainer for Facebook Australia. I've got my Bachelor and Masters in Business Information Systems from the University, of New South Wales. And I'm a contributor and an Asia Pacific trainer for startups.com and Lean Startup Labs, which is helping smaller startups to get their start, I guess, in the digital world, but then beyond that too, to things like making business plans. Quite simply, as a very, very strong definition, a business plan is that roadmap of your business. It's a written document that communicates to the readers of that document and potential investors, that's important, what your business goals are and the steps that you plan on taking to achieve those goals. That's about as simple as a business plan gets. But of course, there's become a whole world of requirements for when you need to produce business plans. It could be for getting finance, for attracting investors, for getting a joint venture partner on board. All those kind of reasons would have a business plan be in a certain format and containing certain information that allows you to communicate that you're on the right path, or at least that you're planning to get onto the right path. A business plan isn't an idea. A business plan is not an aha moment or this moment where you go, wow, that's what I'm going to do. It's definitely not that. That's your inspiration. But the planning part of it is sitting down and methodically going down through what the plan is to move forward, where you actually want to get to and how you intend to get there. Now, of course, no business plan is set in stone. Things do change, but you still need to document that initial foray into business. So you've got something very defined and very, very set in stone that says, yes, this is what I'm planning to do. I might not do it this way, but this is what the plan is, because it helps communicate to others who are looking to invest in your business, or others who are going to give you loans to the business, or others who may want to use your product or become part of your network, that you have really thought this through correctly. You've made sure that you're doing the right thing and you're going about things the right way. This is not just a flash in the pan aha moment. This is a real live plan that actually is going to have a good chance of working. So what a business plan does, it answers those big pictures questions about your business. It answers the why you're doing it and the how you plan to do it. These are very important because they give the motivation, which is very important for someone if they want to come in as a partner to your business. They want to know what goes inside your head when you've got this business going. For them to understand what the why is, it helps them understand why they might also want to partner with you. Sometimes it's not just about whether the plan is looking great or whether the money's flowing. Sometimes it's just about that someone believes in what you're doing because they understand your why. Most investors and partners are not looking for that though. They're looking for the how. They're looking for the, what are you going to do to get from this point to this point? What are you going to do if this certain thing happens? What are the backup plans that are in place? What are all the redundancies in place that make sure you can get from point A to point B, to get from where you would like to get to from where you are right now? So when we ask about the why, we ask questions such as, why is it this particular idea, this particular business? Why this particular method of working on something, this particular set of problems to be solved? It also answers, why are you doing this now? Is there a reason for this? And when you say the why now, we're not talking about, why now? Oh, it's because I finally left my job and I've got a bit of time, or I had kids and so they're all grown up. I've got time to be putting into this. When we say the why now, we're going, why now in terms of the economic reasons, the macro reasons, the reasons around society. So the example of that might be something like, it's now the right time to invest in an app that's going to help people rent out their excess stuff at home, because the world's in a worldwide recession. People aren't spending as much in retail now, and they expect to be able to do things from their phones. So it could be a societal reason, a trend that's become apparent, or that the technology is out there now that supports this particular idea you were going to run with. So that's what we're talking about when we say why now. We're not saying why now because it's great for you. We're saying why now because it's great. The circumstances out in the world with technology and everything are now set up in the right way that supports the building of this particular thing. Now, just going to give you a quick warning. We've got a massive thunderstorm coming over at the moment. So please, if I do drop out, I'll try to reconnect again, but hopefully that won't happen. But it's been happening a lot lately here in Darwin. And then we also ask, why you? Why specifically? We answer the question of why specifically you should be the person who deliver this, or why specifically are you qualified to be the person to deliver this? There's a very big reason why at the beginning of all my presentations, I present you with a list of some of my qualifications and some of my background experience, because I'm trying to answer that why me, why you should listen to me about any particular topic that I'm presenting on. I like to present my credentials, not because I like the ego stroke, not because I need someone to say, oh, what a smart boy he is. Nothing to do with that. What it is to tell you there's a reason why I've been contracted to do this particular thing. And because of that, I'm delivering you information that you can have some degree of trust in, knowing that I've done my research, knowing I've got some personal experience behind it as well. And I've got some qualifications I've been banking up there too that help me to present this stuff for you. That's the same with your business plan. What is it about you that enables you to be the person who is going to deliver this great big idea to the world? Is it your qualifications? Is it your experience? Is it more to do with the opportunity that you've had land in your lap? Or because you're a hardworking person who's been able to do this, 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 and this in life, therefore that qualifies you to be the person who's going to deliver that particular product or that particular service. The how is then, how are you going to make money? How are you going to commercialize or monetize, which is a new word that's popped up in the last 10 years. How are you going to commercialize this particular concept? So if you're going to produce a new range of cupcakes in your town because you notice that nobody's producing really nice cupcakes and you thought, well, this is the thing I'm going to do. How are you going to take that from being just something you do from your own home oven in your own home kitchen to become this commercially viable thing that you're selling enough cupcakes at a right price to make it make money as a business? Then how will you get your customers? What's the marketing mechanism? What's the plan for growing it from just being a hobby that you do in your kitchen to actually having people regularly coming and buying your cupcakes either directly from you or through distributors like supermarkets or bakeries that you may want to sell those cupcakes to? This is the process that tells people that you're thinking out exactly how you're going to take an idea that isn't making money to an idea that does, an idea that has no customers buying from it, but to an idea that does have customers buying for it. And then finally, how you will grow your business. Because it's one thing to be able to sell a few cupcakes to a couple of supermarkets locally. It's another thing to present cupcakes in franchise stores all over the country. If that's what your plan is, then how will you grow that? So we're looking at the why, which gives the motivations. It gives the prior thought and the prior research has gone into why you're doing this business. And then we move on to the how. The how is very much about the plan. That's the actual core of the plan. The background is the why. The plan is the how. How do you go about making money, getting customers, and growing your business from the little minnow that it is now to something that's self-sustaining and able to make not just you, but other people money as well. In that process, that you're showing that because of your research and what you've gone about in the past, that your business has the right product or service for the times, the right product or service for the market that you're aiming towards. You've thought out the right market at the right time. You've already identified who it is that your target customer is going to be and how you're going to reach them through the right marketing strategy or through the right sales strategy or through some way, some distribution plan that you've got and you've set up. And it also helps you outline that you've got the right team, the right people in place to help you deliver that thing. Now, that might not be a team. It might just be you. But if you're looking for investment in an idea, or if you're looking for a partner in an idea, not having anyone else but you does leave one great big gaping hole in a business plan, which is redundancy. What happens if you get hit by a bus? What happens to the business? Does it just crumble into nothing? Or does it have some kind of redundancy plan in place that allows someone else to step in and hold the reins while you're getting better, or holding the reins while the business is handed over to a new entity? So why in the heck do we need a business plan anyway? Glad you asked. Well, it's necessarily because it gives you a chance to not just lay out what your plan is and what your strategies are, it helps you to optimize those as well. Quite often what we do, we go, oh yeah, well, I'm thinking I'm going to knock on a few doors around town and try and sell my cupcakes. You got to have something a bit more than that, because what if you knock around all those doors and you find that that's taking you 38 hours a week just to knock on doors? That's taking away all your working time to actually bake the cupcakes. So you go, okay, well, I need to optimize that process a little bit. Your business plan gives you an opportunity to look at some of the madness in some of our ideas that we've got for business and bring them into some sort of sanity. So for instance, I'll give you a particular example from my own life. I had a plan to build a digital agency that was going to open up physical storefronts in regional Australian towns, larger regional Australian towns, not just any old one, but ones where there's a physical shop front where you can go and ask questions, you can go and get help, you can go and book services and book appointments and book training and all that sort of thing. And you'd be able to, it'd be just like going to Telstra to buy a phone. You could go to one of my shops and you could actually buy services like getting a new website, getting help with the social media, much like this ASBAS program, but you do it through a shop front. Sounds like a fantastic idea. The problem was that to do that, I have to have enough money to pay rent for those shop fronts, the power for those shop fronts, putting staff in those shop fronts. I quickly looked at the madness of that growth and said, if I want to do this and have 10 shop fronts open in a year, I need millions and millions of dollars to back me, because I need to be able to make payroll for all those staff. And no one store can have just one staff member. I need to have 2, 3, 4 staff to man each one of those stores. If you're paying each one of those people around about $70,000 per annum to be there, then you can see how those costs stack up really badly. And if you're paying $5,000 to $10,000 a month for your shop rental, well, you start to realize $120,000 a year for your rent is starting to add up as well. You need millions of backing. So I had to optimize that a little bit and go, well, what can I do that still serves the kind of people I'm trying to serve, but doesn't rack up all these costs of physical locations, physical power bills, and physical people standing in stores that are mostly, not actually serving anybody. You need a business plan because you need to know your direction, not just someone else, but you need to know where you're going. Like I said before, you can use your business plan as a little bit of a compass. So as you start off walking down the path of business and you start sort of veering off to the left and wondering, where you're going, and then you go, oh, wait, check my plan. Am I meant to be going this direction? No. Okay, quick, veer back to the path, keep moving forward. If that's an important thing for you. These days, very agile thinking has replaced a lot of that very fixed thinking when it comes to what a business plan will be like. And your business plan these days can move about a lot. But you still need that North Star. You still need that compass point, that point on the map you're trying to get to let you know you're actually on the right path to achieving that specific thing. Now, your business plan may change. You may get a third of the way down the road and realize that you are aiming for the wrong thing. You now need to be aiming for this thing. You can rewrite your business plan. It's a simple thing to do, particularly if it's before you've attracted other people into your business as partners or investors. You can still make that change. You can still turn it around and go, I'm going over to point C instead of point B. That's great. But when you do point B or point C, excuse me, make sure that you do then follow that path and go through and re-optimize all the steps that you're going to use to get there, because you've changed direction, then all the steps that will get you there, that with the right people, the right money behind you, the right plan behind you, all that needs to be re-engineered as well. Otherwise, you're just sort of blindly just flailing about, and then any little shiny object that's hanging above your head could go, oh, let's go over there. That looks really cool. You don't want to be that person, because you'll never ever be trusted by business partners, and you'll never be trusted by investors either. So, just sip my coffee. Excuse me, got a bit of a cough going on. That almond croissant didn't go down as well as I thought it did. So you need a business plan as well, because you may want to convince others to fund your business. And they've heard me mention this a few times now about investors in your business, or joint ventures, or getting people to buy into your business or lend you money for your business. One of the first things that a bank will ask you before you get a business loan is, where's your business plan? And that's what they're looking for, is this summary of where your business is planning to go, and why now, and how you're going to get there. That's why all those questions are so important. You may need to secure a business loan. That's one of the most common places, I guess, where you would get the whole business plan coming up. You also may want to make strategic alliances. Now, these are not necessarily people that you're paying or who are buying into your business, but you might go, okay, I want to get an account with this particular metal supplier. In order to deliver the sort of thing I'm looking to deliver, I need a reliable and good metal supplier. So they may go, okay, so what's your plan you're looking to move forward? You go, oh, here's my business plan if you want to read that. It's an easy summary way of people to understand, oh, okay, now I can see where you're going. That helps me to plan my business as well, because I'll be a supplier to you. Now that I know that you're planning to have 60% growth in 3 months, then I know, for instance, that I might need to increase my flow to you of services that I provide by an additional maybe 60% as well. It also is very necessary to have a business plan, because you may want to sell your business one day. I've sold 2 of my businesses so far. Both of them needed to have a business plan in place so that the person buying the business knew that the business was on track to reach its targets it was aiming for. The first one I sold back in 2017, early 2017. I didn't have a business plan for that business. It just happened to do pretty well. So in order to sell it onto someone for a modest amount, I had to let them know that this was kind of the plan I was going about, but I had to formalize that into a document. I had it all in my head. I had to put it down in documentation so that they could feel safe knowing that this particular concept I had been looked at seriously and planned. Whilst I hadn't jotted it down, I certainly had seriously planned it in such a way that I knew where it was going. Yes, it was in my head and not on paper, but once I put it on paper, they were able to trust that process a lot more, understand what my thoughts were for that business, and see if their thoughts and my thoughts aligned enough for them to go, yes, we would like to buy that concept off you. And it was good. That helped fuel my move to Darwin and grow a different business to a much bigger level. So there's 3 types of business plans you might want to look at. Some of them are more complicated than others. It's a standard business plan, which is very much the one that most of us are used to presenting. There's a 1-pager business plan. So it's basically a summary of a business plan. And then there's the internal business plan. So this may be the business plan that you use for your own reference, as opposed to the one that you give out to a bank or that you give out to potential business partners. 3 very different types, 3 different levels of complexity, 3 different requirements of information in them, but they are all very strongly related to each other. The standard one is for when you're looking for loans or looking for funding or joint ventures or partners, something like that. It's really meant for people outside of your organization to be reading, that's not have anything that's sort of commercial in confidence. It hasn't got anything about your copyrights, your patents or your trademarks or anything in there that you could think is quite sensitive information. It's just the basics that are out there, so an external person can have a read for it, go and look at, they'll be able to see where you're basically heading for, but at the same time, not be worried that that you are sharing really, really important information that you shouldn't be sharing this early in the relationship. It's very fine-tuned and it's very, very focused on what you're actually achieving it to do. You may write 3 or 4 different versions of your business plan, even the standard business plan, depending upon who the audience of that business plan is. There might be a lot more financial information in a business plan if you're trying to seek a little bit more finance or a little bit of a loan or a business partner. But if you're just looking for people to sign on early for some of your products and services, then your standard business plan might be something that's just a little bit less formal, a little bit less about the numbers and the figures and more about the here's who we are and where we're going. It's also the most common type of business plan, probably because most business plans are used to try and attract money, to try and attract investment or a loan or partnerships. So this is why it generally is the one that most people think about when we're talking about a business plan. The 1-page business plan is the what I call the TLDR, the too long didn't read version of the business plan. It's a very, very broad overview, very, very simplified. It's that one you're most likely to give to someone when you first meet them who's interested in investing in you. It does not go into too much detail yet. They haven't earned the right to read your details. They haven't signed things like non-disclosure agreements where they are agreeing that they're not going to talk about this to other people yet, because there's no real information in there that they can go and say, yes, let's copy that idea and take it and do it ourselves. You don't really want to get to the point where you're giving someone who you're meeting for the first time every little bit of information about your life. Think about it. Meet someone at a networking function. You don't tell them every detail about your life, every detail about your finances, and every detail about your plans for the future. You tell them enough. You give them a little bit of a pitch about who you are and what your business is, but that's really just about it. This is kind of like that version. It's the shaking hands at the network meeting version of your business and your plans for the future of that business. Not too much detail, but enough to go, okay, I would like to know more about this. Can we make an appointment to talk a bit more about the details? Then your 3rd version is the internal business plan, which you use internally to set your internal goals and to mark whether you're actually reaching those goals. It's a lot more detailed, even more detailed than the standard business plan, because it could be looking at things such as, this is my business plan for this month, next month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. It can be broken down as a bit of like a set of goals that you use for your business as you're moving along the life cycle of your business. It can be pretty detailed about what you're wanting to achieve in your business, but for internal eyes only. So for instance, if you've got 3 staff that work in particular areas, you've got a business development manager, you've got a production manager, and you've got someone who's your virtual assistant. Each one of those people need to know certain things about your business and where it's going and what it's doing based upon their jobs. Well, then this is probably the business plan that they would need. But it can be still full of the stuff you don't need outsiders knowing about. It can be things like, we are planning to have an additional staff member coming on in January 2021, but to be able to fulfill the requirements of a new contract that we just won. You may not share that in your normal business plan because it's a lot more up to date. It's a lot more moving. This internal business plan is probably the one that you're going to have that's more of a living document. It's going to be something which you can change and update as you're going along. What generally doesn't change is the goal at the end. The goal at the end is usually where everything stays very static and much the same, but the steps along the way may change. So your public one, your standard business plan, or your too long didn't read one-pager business plan, can stay very much, not with a lot of detail and not with a lot of changing stuff in it. It can kind of stay the same pretty much from this year to next year. But this one is the one you may update with little notes along the way and little mini goals that you might want to set in between. Now, the standard business plan format is pretty well defined now, not just in Australia, but everywhere in the world. As we move into a world that's a lot less about the sole trader and a lot less about the single ownership and more about joint ventures and collaborations and all that, this is the one that's probably going to go a lot further for you. It starts off with an executive summary. So executive summary is a bit of a 2-paragraph or a sentence on the whole plan. So a little bit of a paragraph going, this is what we aim to do. And then with the rest of the stuff that's in there, you take just one sentence on each part of your whole plan. So as we get further down, we go, this is our company, this is the problem we solve, this is how we plan to do it, this is what our goals are. As you get down there, this is just like almost like a dot point set of what the headings are of the rest of the document. It's a little bit like that too long didn't read summary, but it's at the very beginning. So for someone who just wants to scan through and get to a certain part and go, oh yeah, that bit, okay, that's the bit I need to go to, flick, there it is. Not quite a setting of content, a gloss, an index of pages and content. It's just more of a summary of the whole document in one short couple of paragraphs. Your company description then, number 2, it's almost like your company pitch. So it's almost like that. My name is, my company is, how that this thing happens. Well, we solve that by doing this, and our ideal customer is them. So if you think of in terms of, it's very much like a pitch. It's very much a very condensed version of all the things you do and the reasons why you do them. So using our cupcake example before, that Aaron's Cupcakes is a company that makes, how sometimes you need a whole lot of desserts for a special occasion. You don't just want to put out lollies. Well, Aaron's Cupcakes solves that by having customizable cupcakes at any occasion delivered fast and within a reasonable time frame. And their ideal customer happens to be corporate customers who just want that little special extra touch for their customers and for their employees and their investors. So that sort of statement is the statement you're going to make when you're making your company description. It does not have to go into, and we have this many staff and this many locations all around the world. It could just be simple as Marnie's Essential Oils is an essential oil maker using natural ingredients from bush foods in Australia. You know how people are often worried about what goes into their cosmetics and personal care products? Well, we solve that by ensuring that everything we've got is organic, sourced from within Australia and produced within Australia without ever having gone offshore or having included non-organic ingredients. Our ideal customer is women between 35 and 55 who like some quality products in their personal care routine every day. That kind of thing, that's your company description. The problem is a very clear and very specific problem that your business is setting out to solve. So you know how I use that, how that statement that was in the company description, that what you solve. So that's kind of like taking that and expanding that a little bit more. So instead of just saying that Marnie's essential oils, you know how people are worried about what goes in their personal care products these days. You go, people are concerned about what goes into their personal care products these days. My business sets out to solve this by, and you expand out the reasons and the fixes you've got for those things. So it may not just be one problem you're trying to solve. It may be 12 problems, but you can lay those out really clearly and saying the problem is non-recyclable packaging is being used. Great, we solve that by having recycled packaging. The problem is that foreign ingredients aren't necessarily tracked back to their source, so we know what really goes into them. Well, great. The solution to that is sourcing everything locally, where you can actually source that from the maker themselves, so you know exactly what went in and when. The problem may be that it's too expensive to get these things usually. We solve that problem by doing special volume deals with the suppliers we deal with within Australia, so we can pass on those savings to our customers. That could be what the problem is. You can solve more than one. It doesn't have to be one. It can be quite a few that your business actually solves. The solution is what you've actually done to solve that problem. So you can highlight how your service or how your specific product or widget or gizmo connects directly back to the problem that a customer will be having. So if the customer's got the problem with having allergies to sulfites in wine, you can say, well, I actually solve that by using sulfite-free wine that is sourced locally within Australia and prevents people from having allergic reactions when they have their favorite tipple. So you connect that back to the original problems you were listing in section number 3 and describe how you're actually resolving those problems. Your market size is where you take a look and do a bit of market research. And I've done quite a few market research webinars in there that sort of tackle that problem of going, well, okay, how do we know if anyone actually wants this stuff? How do I know if my idea is actually going to go into an idea of, making sure that people are going to actually want this particular thing, or that there's enough people out there to make it a commercially viable product that I can sell? It asks and answers the questions of how big is the market for what you're doing? How do you know? What is the research you've done that ensures that? Is it growing by much? So is your market growing? If the market's growing, how quickly is it growing? Is it 2% growth, 3% growth, 15% growth? Is the market big enough for investors to get excited about that? So if there's enough room at the head of you for you to grow into, would that be enough for an investor to come in and want to go, wow, we really need to get on board this company because they've got a big future ahead of them and we want a part of that? Have there also been any what we call notable exits from similar companies? Quite often, doesn't matter that there's not necessarily a huge market for your services. It may be that one of the existing providers that was servicing that market has disappeared. Now they've gone and done something else. They may have reasons for that. Quite often it's just because they can't seem to make money out of it where you can. So if you say, well, there is now a market where there wasn't previously a market. So what we need to do is probably, bear in mind that we've now got some gap in this. There's some room in there and there's some people who are able to do this. Great. We can step in there and we can take that slice of the market for ourselves. Then we look at the product and how it actually works. Now, this is not an in-depth description of your product and how it works and what it solves and what all the pieces are. It's a bit of an overview, I guess. It's where you look at what the key products and services are that you offer, and you break them down into what the key features or the key benefits are. You want to really concentrate here on what makes them unique from the existing things that are in the market. Now, I've had to answer this question a lot when I've gone in for innovation grants, for instance, for some of my clients who think they've got this amazing idea that no one else has thought of. And then we do a little bit of a search and we realize actually 35 other companies are doing this right now. Because those 35 companies are doing that right now, that doesn't make this innovative. You're just doing something that 35 other companies are doing. So this is a really good chance for you to really outline what it is that's different about yours, even if you are going to a crowded marketplace with lots of existing providers, or if you're doing something very, very new and very, very innovative and very unheard of. You can explain here what makes your solution to that problem so much more innovative and so much different and more effective than all the others that are currently doing that now. may also be worth mentioning too that what the point of difference is about your product that makes it particularly unique. I can say, for instance, in the case of someone who's making an essential oil based on the Australian blue cypress tree, that a particular provider has a way of preserving the blue colouring of the oil right throughout the process, where everybody else who does this has to add the blue colouring in. Now, in that blue colouring is a very special ingredient that gives it therapeutic qualities that have been proven scientifically to do certain things. I can't go too heavily into that because it's a very big business case in that case, but what it is, they can explain that we have a trademarked and patented process that allows us to keep that going through without having to then pretend that it's still there by adding blue colored dye in at the end like everybody else does. Hope that makes sense. Number 7 is your revenue model. This is going to be very important for people who want to say, well, how are you going to make money out of this? All I can see is that you want to have money. What's your pathway to where you're going to make money? Is it making money now, or will it make money in the future because of this new investment? How are you pricing things? Are you making sure that your pricing is realistic? Or are you just going, well, here's my cost, add 10% on top and hopefully that'll be enough? Or have you got a loss leader model which says, well, we're going to make this at a loss and hopefully use venture capital to help us make money? Something like Uber. Many people know that Uber has not made a cent in profit for its entire existence. It runs 100% on investor capital, which means that it's barely making enough money to pay for it. It's not even making enough money to pay for itself. It's actually being propped up by investors who keep investing more and more and more millions into it to keep it going because they believe in the future of that product. Now that's starting to fade a little bit and the investors are starting to go, hey, come on, you need to have a bit of a pathway here to a future that actually pays for this because we want our money back. So they need to turn that around very quickly in this next couple of years and show that there is a pathway to profit there. So that's where you might look at things like pricing. Is your pricing realistic, or is it a bit of a pipe dream and you're trying to survey a particular market who's cheap and will never spend very much on this? Well, then you might have a bit of a problem. But then there's also, how does your pricing compare with the same kind of thing in other markets? For example, if you are selling a particular, and I'll go back to cupcakes again, if you're selling a particular kind of cupcakes and you're selling those for $5 each and everyone else is selling them for $4, what is it about your cupcakes so that you charge more for them? Or if the general price range for a cupcake is $10 each and you're selling them for $5, why is it that you've got it at such a low price compared to the rest of the market? Is there a reason for that? And what's the comparison and why is there that comparison? And then you also look at what your revenue projections are for the next 5 or so years, where you're starting to look at, okay, well, while we charge this much now, in 3 years' time, we'll charge this much. Right now, we're making X amount of dollars. Within 6 months, we believe we'll be making X plus $1, or in 5 years, we believe we'll be making XXX dollars. Your operating model is kind of where you're looking for finding those cost savings and those cost efficiencies. It's all those lovely little ways that you're going to be able to run this thing nicely and cheaply and not too scarily. So this thing is going to be run lean, and we call this lean business or the lean startup, where you're looking for the cheapest possible way to run this without compromising on the quality of your product, rather than just like throwing in lots of things, putting in a pool table, putting in a 3-story staff accommodation block when everyone just lives down the road in their own houses anyway. It's looking at making sure that you're doing this as a sensible business, rather than just throwing money into the point where there's actually no money left and you're making a loss. Your competitive analysis, this section, is all about who are the other people in your space. What do they do? Do a bit of a SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Who are your competitors? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do you plan to take advantage of their weaknesses? How do you plan to address their strengths? What are the opportunities in that space with your competitors? What are the things they don't cover that you do? And what are the threats that come from those competitors? If they decide to change things to go more in your direction, is that something that which will like drastically affect what you do? Well, if that's the case, then you may need to change the way you look at things. Your customer definition is where you really narrow down and look at who your customer is. Now, quite often this is called your personas or a client avatar. This is where you go, well, my particular customer is a 45-year-old guy called Dave. He lives in Western Sydney, and what motivates him to take action is when he feels like his world is falling apart. For instance, here you look at that the typical middle-aged white guy who believes in conspiracy theories is likely to respond to this kind of marketing and this kind of product because he feels very unstable in a world that's changing. Or it could be that I'm looking at a 35-year-old woman called Rebecca. And Rebecca is someone who has 2 kids, still works, is the primary breadwinner in the family, despite the fact that she also seems to be the primary caretaker for the kids as well. Does more than her fair share of the housework because the husband is a bit of a dick. And whatever you want to say about that particular client persona. But what you need to know is what motivates that particular target person of yours to purchase your particular product. And that's going back to, well, we know that Rebecca has an issue with time. So we want to give her the strategies to be able to get better time out of her day and to be a little bit more confrontational with the husband in order to get him to help out a little bit more around the house. Of course, this could work in any direction for any demographic, any kind of customer that you're looking at, whether they're male, female, trans, non-binary, someone in Australia, out of Australia, someone in Queensland, someone in WA, someone in the middle of Central Australia. It doesn't really matter where they are, as long as you define that customer very, very vividly, almost so that someone can sit there, close their eyes and hear that read to them and go, I can picture that person because I know someone like that in my life. Your customer acquisition strategy is how you will acquire those customers, how you'll find those new customers. Are you using things like SEO to attract search results? Are you using Facebook ads to attract them? TV ads, putting letters in mailboxes, sending people trial packs in the mail? What is the way that you're going to get people to come in there, and how much is it going to cost you to do those things? TV advertising costs money. Facebook ads cost money. Or if you're looking at an organic way of getting people in, then how much time and the value of that time is being put in to attract those customers into your particular channel. This is a really good way of showing that you know what you're doing as a marketer. Now, a lot of people would then get a marketing strategist or a marketing consultant in to write this particular section of the business plan because they go, well, I'm not a marketer. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll get someone in to help me find that out. By having a very good customer acquisition strategy in there, it's showing that you're not just running a business without thought, you're running a business that's looking at growth, because you want to make sure that if one customer drops out of your business, that another one drops in to replace them, or preferably one drops out and 3 drop in. So you always got that trajectory of a little bit more growth that keeps you to be able to keep growing your business without having to necessarily put up your prices, or without necessarily having to suddenly jump great big leaps to accommodate more people. Then we look at the traction. Where are you at? This is how far along the journey of your product or your services are you? Are you just starting out? Have you just got no traction whatsoever? If all you've done is do the research and you're looking for someone to invest, this might be you. Or if you're well and truly 5 years down a track with it, this thing makes money, it's profitable, but you want to get it bigger and it requires $100,000 to be invested in order to do that, well then, establish here how far down the path you are. Have you got sales channels already out there? Distribution partners who are selling your product for you? Have you got a well-proven product that people buy now, or a service that people are buying into now? How far down the track are you? Have you got a 5-year plan that you're already 4 years into? Did you just complete your first 5-year plan, and did you smash your targets, or are you still yet to reach them? This is where you say, this is how far I've got. I've got things like copyrights in place for all my written material. I've got design patents in place for all the things that I've designed. Have I got any patents for particular technology or ideas? Is my logo trademarked? All those kind of things are where you've already got some traction along the way. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have all those things in place to attract an investor or to attract a buyer or to give yourself an idea of where your future is. Remember, this doesn't have to be an externally produced business plan. This could be your internal one, the one that you're using as your guidepost, as your compass to give you the direction on where to go. It might just be that you are simply noting down all the things you have done up to now and that you need to get done in the future. But if this is to attract someone else to buy into your business, or you want to sell your business, this stuff's important. You may want to have things like patents and copyright and trademarks very firmly in place. Seems really long, doesn't it? 13 points already. Who's your management team? If it's just you, it's just you. But if you've got other people in your team, you don't have to list all your staff here. What you do is put your key people. So it could be your team members, who is your regional manager. It could be your business development person, the people that someone else is going to be buying into as well. Because they're not just buying into your business, they're buying into your people as well, remember? So having a little profile about why these people are in part of your business and why they have helped you, how they've helped you to drive success in the company, means that they can look at that and go, you make really good decisions about the people you put in place. That's really good as well. Your funding model is where you're going to say, okay, if I'm looking for funding, if I'm looking for investment, then this is where I'm actually looking to define how much I need. I've worked out that I need $100,000 to get to the next stage of my business. It's clearly defined in my business plan that on year 3, I need an extra $100,000 to buy this machinery or to buy this much stock. So you look at that and go, well, what are the terms of the funding you're trying to attract? Now, if you're not trying to look for funding here, that's fine. You can leave this section out. But if you are, this is a very vital bit because this defines what it is you're asking for investors to do. If you're looking for $1.4 million, you go, well, what are the terms that I want that $1.4 million off? What will they get for their $1.4 million? Think about the Channel 10 show Shark Tank. They're looking, I want 10% of your business for $500,000. And you just see the person on the show just doing their maths and going, that's not really much because I'm going to make millions out of this. And 10% of millions is hundreds of thousands. And I need more than just 100,000. So you see people doing the maths in their head. This is what you're going to be doing with them as well. You're saying, this is how much I need to get to this step. And if you do give me this much, this is what you get. So you get a seat on the board, or you get a vote in the board meetings, or you get, a certain amount. You get 100,000. If you give me $100,000, I give you $100,000 in shares, or I give you a 5% interest in the company, or it could be something that you want to actually give control of the company over to someone else as part of their investment. Then you also put in there how you're looking to secure that funding. So how are you looking at getting it? Are you looking at bank loans? Are you looking at getting it from investors like the people reading this? You're saying, well, I'm actually, wanting to get that funding from you as the investor reading this business plan. And then you include your current financials. Unfortunately, this is something you will not be able to avoid, particularly if you're looking at selling your business or getting people interested in it. This is where you're saying things like, how much I sell my product for, how much it costs me to produce my product. Here's the gap, or here's the profit margin I've got. Here's how much it's costing me to get my customers through the door, or here's what my cost of staff is. So for instance, it costs me X amount for my staff. It's X amount to make these things, X amount to attract a customer, and I'm still maintaining a 33% margin on everything sold. I'll look at that and go, that looks great. What is a good margin and a bad margin will depend upon what your market or your business type is. But I know that generally in retail and in hospitality, looking at 30% margin as being something that's very healthy. But in selling digital goods, quite often that margin is something like 2,000 through 3,000% is considered to be a really healthy margin. So it depends on what you're doing and what you're selling. Wow. So the old style of business plan is very different to the new style business plan. Now, your old business plan takes all those points, right? Makes it very formal. It's 50 pages, a bit of a manifesto, right? So it's a real big, long, carved in stone statement that's sealed in a locked box at a bank or a safety deposit box. It's one of those things which is like a grand statement to the world of who you are and where you're going, right? Well, there's the new business plan, which is very everyday language, plain English. Probably doesn't come to more than 12 to 15 pages. It's got room for some images to break it up as well. It's not going to ipso factos and Latin descriptions and legalese. Doesn't need any of that. It just says what it is you're after and what it is you're doing to plan for the future to have a great business plan. So how do we start on these things? You've got to make sure you nail the research side of what you're doing. Make sure that you know your stats, know exactly the information you're putting into your business plan is true and correct at the time of publishing it. This is so important because this is where people get tripped up when they write their business plan. They get to the point where they go, I don't really know. I guess, yeah, margin of, I don't know, 25%. Does that sound all right? Yeah, I'll put that in. When you don't get those information right, you can be caught out, particularly when people are trying to invest in your company, or if people are trying to buy your business. If that's the way forward for your business plan, then that's called fraud. And that's a really dangerous thing. And you can be sued to the wazoo if you do fraudulent things in a business plan and you use that to sell your business or to attract investors into a business. They can take very strong civil action against you, can bankrupt you 50 times over. So why would you do it? Well, it's still worthwhile doing it because it's still something that's your compass point of direction. It's still going to send you in the right direction and keep you, it's going to ensure your success a lot more and help you to avoid failure. So even if you are doing that stats and that information in your business plan just for yourself to read, make sure you got it right, because the worst person you can lie to is yourself. Do a brief outline and do it maybe as you start to do it, maybe put it on a table and just use sticky notes or bits of paper that you can stick around and go, okay, here's the basic information I've got for everything. Then you start to arrange it in order on that table or on a whiteboard. Whiteboards are really good for this as well. Be really rough, be really messy, be really, haphazard about it so that you can get at least all the ideas out physically. And then you start to pull everything into place and make sense of it into a cohesive start to finish. And I would say to take a photo as you're going along, because quite often some kid is going to come home and just destroy all your stuff on the table, or someone's going to wipe it off that whiteboard too. And then organize your goals and your objectives. So break each section down in the kinds of questions that the reader will be asking themselves about you. So we're talking around about making it as easy for someone to understand who's reading it as absolutely possible. You don't want to leave people ultimately confused about what you're trying to put across in your business plan. So a few examples of some really, really, really good business plans. I can send these to you via email. I've got all your email addresses, I think, through the ASBAS program. There's some really good guidelines on who they are. It's very hard for me to show them on here, but what I will do, I'll wrap it up here and I'll be able to send you through those examples of those really good business plans. They're really bright and cheerful and presented in such a way that you can replicate it on Canva. You can replicate it in Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, any of those. So you can produce yourself a really, really nice looking, a really, really nice looking and nice reading business plan as well. So I'll send those through to you via your email addresses. I can see Aaron, Jude, and Karen still on the call right here at the end. So I'll send those through to you this afternoon. So you'll have a copy of those in your mailbox as well. If you've got any questions at all and you're watching on YouTube, whack it in the comments below. And if you've got any questions of me at all, please look me up on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer any questions I can possibly answer, or even throw in a few little tips that I've found along the way myself, which have helped me to overcome some of the obstacles in writing business plans for my various entities as well. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic afternoon, and I'll hopefully see you in the rest of December and January as we do a lot more of these free webinars with the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program. Have a great day.